Chapter 175. Wilbur looked over. The man was old and wrinkled, hunched over as he walked. He was sporting a bowler hat and a pale gray tracksuit. The cane in his hand was black, with a bright red jewel the size of an egg on top of it. He looked like a man who had been around for a long time, but one with wealth and status. The old man smiled at Wilbur as he walked over, his face winding from the gesture. "Let me introduce myself." The old man sat down next to Wilbur with Jasmine's help. "My name is Albert Foreman." Wilbur poured Albert a cup of tea and nodded at him. "Please have some tea, Honorable Mr. Foreman." "Please drop the honorifics." Albert shook his head. "I'm just an old geezer with one foot in the grave." Wilbur smiled and looked at Albert. Albert said, "Don't bother looking. I've got some amount of spirit energy in me to be in charge of the Department of Paranormal Research and Defense." Wilbur said nothing, taking a sip of tea. "Ryder told me that you're incredibly skilled. You're brilliant in combat, and you're even good at both earth and thunder cultivation methods. That's pretty rare," Albert said, sipping from his cup. Wilbur replied, "I just know a thing or two." Albert chuckled. "I'm an old man, so time is precious to me. I'll get straight to the point." "Please do. I'd like you to join the department." "Why?" "Because you're an incredible cultivator. You must know that the country has to utilize a talent like that." Wilbur glanced at Albert and Jasmine. Albert shook his head. "Technology is coming up with more and more weapons, and to a certain extent, even cultivators won't be a match for some of these weapons. Our country also has a special team researching weapons to use on cultivators too." Wilbur was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, "I've got a lot of things to do. I don't think I'll be able to work in your department." Albert said with a smile, "Oh, our jobs are actually pretty simple. There aren't many cultivators around, to begin with, and they mostly wouldn't dare to act out of line. You'd just be going about your life as usual and get paid for it. Doesn't that sound good?" Wilbur smiled. "It sounds a little too good to be true, no? I've got a business to run. I can't really walk away from it." Ryder's battle against the monster had just happened a few days ago, and Cape International was currently competing against Joy Corp. It was true that his hands were tied, and he was also pretty sure this job was hardly as easy as this old man was making it up to be. Albert looked at Wilbur, his cloudy eyes devoid of any light. "Wilbur, you do know that all of the best cultivators end up joining the department. You won't be an exception, and you can't really say no." The words had an underlying threatening tone, and Wilbur frowned. "And what if I say no?" Wilbur lit a cigarette as he asked. Albert chuckled. "I'll have to leave then. You don't think an old geezer like me would get physical, do you?" Wilbur chuckled. "But I'm afraid it's going to be a little difficult for Cape International to operate in Dasha from now on. Your name's going to be on the department's priority list, and the members of your Abyss mercenaries will be put under heavy supervision. It's quite a pain, honestly." Albert's tone was casual, as if he was giving advice to an old friend.